Hey guys, so I just got back from a couple days ago at least from the 2025 Ford Performance launch party. Anyone and everyone who does anything Ford Performance pretty much was there. It was a really wild experience and it was really cool. More excitingly to me is the unveiling that they did while we were there. So, if you guys have seen already, they unveiled a Mach-e Prototype for NASCAR Cup Series. It is amazing. It is so pretty. It like gives me almost rally vibes actually. Like I look at it, it's got like a big wing on the back. It's got like more aggressive stance. Like obviously it does borrow the suspension and the wheels from NASCAR, but just the overall look of it, I think it's because it's a hatch. I think they went down to a two-door on the prototype. So that is a difference between like production model and that. There's actually a ton of differences, but we'll get into the specifics in a minute. But looking at it, it gives me like that rally vibe. Like it's a wagon. It's got, the slope to it. It's got the big wing. Like it's pretty cool what this thing looks like in person. So the funny backstory to like seeing that for the first time is they have all these cars in this like venue building that we're in, where like the real party is at. And they've kind of got the off-road stuff over on one side and they've got more of like the track focus stuff on the other side. And there was more vehicles outside too, but just in terms of what was inside. So over by the track focus vehicles, there's one vehicle that is under a cover. And everyone's like, I don't know what it is, like kind of like, it looks interesting. Like it's not the right shape for, like another like GT3 or like a Mustang variant. And it's not a truck. And, they're trying to like piece it together. And someone said something about like, oh, maybe they redid the Focus. I'm like, they didn't redo the Focus. So we're over there and it's like actually like our little Explorer group. And we're all over there and it's, Candace and one of her friends that she had brought and Jai and myself and Stu and Dan. And I'm like, you guys, this is a Mach-e. Like, look at the body lines. And I'm looking at the nose of the car and I'm looking at kind of like the hood and like you can just see the body lines. Obviously, there's a giant wing situation going on, which bigger than what the Rally has, as you can, tell from looking at the sheet. But anyway, I'm like, you guys, this is Mach-e. So I like lost my crap when they unveiled it and they were like, it's the Mach-e Prototype. I'm like, oh my God, like, how cool is this? Like Ford has been doing so many cool things lately with EVs and like other manufacturers are trying, but they're still focused on like production model stuff. Ford is truly like stepping out and doing something that is a little bit kind of crazy. And like, mind you, I'm not like in love with EVs. Like I'm not, like I owned a Tesla. I was so happy to get rid of that thing. And it was because it lacked personality. It wasn't a bad daily. It wasn't like a unenjoyable to drive vehicle, but I'm not one to be like, oh, EV over everything. Like I'm not obsessed with that. Like I love an internal combustion engine. Like that's never going to be replaceable. But what I appreciate is that Ford sees that and they support that and they're going to continue and have continued to make internal combustion vehicles, not only in production, but they use them in racing and they use them regularly and they integrate the EV component where it fits. And that's something that like I've been so excited to see Ford continue doing, but like to see them again do it. And like it was really cool. One of the people that I got a chance to talk to when I was there was actually, it was two of them. There were two guys that were on the engineering team for this prototype that they built, the Mach-e Prototype. And I got to talk to them. And like one of the things we discussed was, where does this fit? Like what is this going to be used for? And I don't think that there's a definite answer yet. But the cool thing is it's done. Like it's there. And this is, mind you, I think it was who made the batteries and like has helped tremendously. And it has been a partner with Ford for a long time on other platforms as well that are EV related. But Stard of Austria, go back to 2020, they had come up with like an e-car prototype for rally. And I think they used a Fiesta for that. But they're still involved and they make amazing products and they specialize in performance. So like we're seeing Ford really do something different. And they are taking a hint because there are a lot of people doing electric vehicles for performance applications. And so Ford is saying like, hey, we can do both. To me, that's super cool because it shows like, hey, we're progressive. We're going to, if we can make it work and it can actually work better or the same, then it does. If it can work better, like, we're going to go that route. But if it can work the same, then it doesn't matter. Because if you guys think about this, and like, I really want people who love internal combustion and are like very anti-EV to think about this, because again, I love internal combustion. Nothing will ever replace the feeling of driving an internal combustion engine, like a vehicle with an ICE engine. Like, it's not replaceable. And the sound and the feeling and just like it's a different relationship. I genuinely believe that. But if you're that person that's very anti-EV, like, think about this. If your goal is to go as fast as you can to accomplish the goal in the most efficient way possible, and an EV fits that model better for what you're doing, why would you not do it? The other thing is, too, as someone who races and someone who has experience driving EVs and ICE vehicles, not extensive, but just some, there is not a place for an EV in some motorsport to compete with an internal combustion engine. You can't compare the two. And that, I genuinely believe that. So like, if you look at like a quarter mile, right? I can go take my Mach-e GT to the track and it's going to run whatever, an 11.8 with the performance upgrade, whatever it was. But like, let's say I'm without the performance upgrade. It's going to run a 12.2 every single time. And do you know how much skill I have to do that to launch it well and to like get a good, 60 foot? None. I have no skill. It requires no skill. There's no technique involved. There's no like nothing. And it's going to do it every single time as long as your battery, state of charge is relatively the same, as long as there's no other factors, My point is, when you have EVs that are more capable in some ways than internal combustion engines, and your goal is to win and to do it well, or to do your thing well and to go fast, why would you not utilize that? There's a place for it. And I'm not saying it's always going to be alongside an internal combustion vehicle or a vehicle with an ICE engine, but there is a place for it. And I think it's really amazing that Ford is not only showing us that and saying like, hey, look, this could fit here. Like, this is what we can do with this. But they're also like still doing the other half of it, right? So super cool to see. And I'm going to tell you something. I know people have become familiar, at least to some degree, probably with like the super van that they did, the Cobra Jet 1800, the Super Cobra Jet, the super truck that they ran down Pikes Peak. Those are all familiar, I think, to us at this point, but this Mach-e is like pretty new. Obviously, it's a prototype. I wanted to like touch on how amazing what they've done with this is and what the differences are between like that and a production model, because it's so far different and so far removed from the production model that I don't think we're going to see any carryover. I wouldn't anticipate any carryover into production model vehicles from what they've done with this and how they're using it. But the prototype in qualifying mode, so like we have in the Mach-e's right now, at least in the GT, we have like whisper, engage, and unbridled mode, which is the same as like other Ford vehicles that have drive mode. So it's basically like eco, normal, and sport is our options. The prototype that they built has qualifying mode and it has race mode. So there's different horsepower output for those two. So, or generation, I guess. I don't know how that, torque output, horsepower generated. Okay, so whatever it may be. The estimated, I think, because I don't know that you can measure it correctly in an EV, but the estimated horsepower is like 1,400 in qualifying mode on the prototype versus, mind you, that's 3 times what the Mach-e GT with the performance upgrade or the Rally make. So the Mach-e GT and the Rally will make 480-ish horsepower. The prototype, 1,360 is the exact number. Just shy of 1,400 horsepower. That's wild. Like, that's mind-boggling. In race mode, when it needs to like actually do laps and like continue and compete, it puts out 816 horsepower in race mode. So in the Mach-E GT, we have what's called unbridled mode, and I would imagine, or unbridled, which is like race, I would imagine the Rally has something similar. We also have the option of unbridled extended, which is designed to be used on like road course, on like circle track, that sort of thing, not quarter mile necessarily, but it's intended to keep the batteries at the right temperature for longer periods of time. It doesn't give you the full 480 horsepower and the estimated 700 foot-pounds. It cuts that back so that it's going to do it longer. So my assumption is that's kind of the same principle, what they did with the prototype, where it's, you can use all 1,360 horsepower for qualifying because it's short, sweet, and to the point. But when it comes down to like time to race, you're getting 816 horsepower. They did not give a torque estimate on that. I haven't been able to find one. But the big difference, and I think where we're seeing that increase in power, is not only from the fact that it's just a prototype built for this, but also because it has 3 motors. So we're seeing 3 times the power, and we're seeing 1 more motor than what the production model has. Obviously, the motors are going to be very different than what production models are, but in general, super cool. They put 3 motors in this thing, and it has a smaller battery. That's the crazy thing. So the Mach-E GT and the Rally both have a 91 kilowatt hour battery, which is for the extended range so that you can maintain performance while also going long distances. 91 kilowatt hour battery. The prototype has a 71 kilowatt hour battery. So it's a significantly smaller battery, but I think that's because they don't need it. So they're building it for a specific purpose. It's not intended to be driven, obviously, on the street. It's not intended to be used for, road trips or whatever, daily driving. They know exactly how long a race is going to last, give or take, and they know what they need to get out of that. So they have been able to build something that maximizes what they have available based on what they need. So again, another thing I don't think we'll see carry over. It's just not going to happen. But super cool. They were able to use a smaller battery, which also means weight reduction. And that is the next point. So the weight is very different between the production model and the prototype that they built. So the production model, GT and Rally, are pretty close to one another. So the production model GT weighs 4,900 pounds. I think it's like 4,952-ish. And then the Rally is almost it's 49 something. So it's like almost 5,000 pounds, both of them really. So they're very close in weight, about 5,000 pounds, give or take, whatever. This prototype that they built is about 4,000 pounds. So you're seeing about 1,000 pounds of difference, which is going to help with delivery of the torque that they're generating, but the horsepower, things like that, and being able to put that on the ground. And also more powerful motors. I mean, you're talking about a smaller battery with more powerful motors. Seems counterintuitive, but they've been able to figure out how to make that work. And again, this goes back to, I think, who they're working with on development, which is Stard. And they've been doing this for a long time. I mean, Stard has been in the game since 2008, 2010. I don't know. It's been forever. But they've been doing this a long time. And they've been working with Ford since at least 2020 to get some of this stuff done. So whatever the case may be, super duper cool. They've got this stuff going somewhere. Where it's going to end up, we don't necessarily know, but it will have a place. And I'm sure that at some point in time, it'll be something that they can build on, especially as we see more manufacturers delving into this. Like, how much can we squeeze out of an EV platform? They want to know. And if it's good at what it does, why would we not do that? Like, why would we not put something that's good at it, what it's supposed to do, at what it's doing? That would make sense. So anyway, the other differences and reasons why I don't think that they're going to probably carry anything over, I mean, it's entirely different, really. The prototype was built on an S650, a Dark Horse actually chassis, whereas the Mach-E is its own other chassis, and it's much longer, probably I would assume heavier, wider. So those are some differences. Also, it's a full carbon tub. So that prototype is as light as I think they can possibly make it. It has to have a full cage, obviously. Has the full cage, has, all the required safety stuff, which it would be cool if they would make a track version of, because like they made the Rally, which is like the off-road, version, and they have the GT, which is like the street going version. But like also we've never seen a Mustang come to, well, actually I could be wrong on that. I don't know for sure, but I don't think we've ever seen a Mustang come to a showroom floor with a cage in it and stuff. So maybe I'm asking for a little bit much, but that would be my hopeful thing, is it would be cool. But again, we don't have like anything to compete with that in. Like, it's not like there's like a EV track night, like it's not like we can be like, I'm gonna go race my EV. I don't know. So anyway, it was really cool, and it was really cool to see it all in person. And like what they're doing with this is, I think it's fascinating. And I think the fact that they've continued to push with both internal combustion and electric vehicles is huge. They're not stopping. They're not like gonna just like abandon ship on any of it, it doesn't seem. So that to me is very reassuring. And the event overall was amazing. So back to the people that I was able to meet, I think I already said I talked to Von Gittin Jr. I had an EV conversation with him. I was also able to like meet and greet with Joey Logano, and like I was able to talk to one of the engineers from the team that worked on the prototype of the Mach-e. And one of the things that was really cool was being able to walk around the car with the aero engineer, and he's pointing out things that like are, given or borrowed from NASCAR, like the suspension, the wheels, some of the aero stuff, like the front splitter, that was, NASCAR dictated, or whether that was regulations or they actually said, here's what you can use. But he was able to like go around and point out some of those things. And it was so sweet. He was very big on saying like, this is a team. Like, he's like, everyone's like, oh, he's the engineer. But like, he's like, I'm not the only one. Like, everybody's involved. This is like huge, team. And I was like, I completely understand. Like, that's very respectable. But I thought that was very sweet that while I was there, was able to, before I found the engineering people, I was asking, I was like, does anyone know like who's been driving this thing? Because it's this guy over here. So come to find out, it's David Reagan. So David Reagan is a NASCAR driver, and able to talk to him. And I was like, hey, it's like, this is so cool. Like, I am way too excited, right? I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I love the Mach-e. Like, I drive one every day. Like, I just want to know, like, what is it like? What is the experience of driving this thing on a track? Like, putting its max effort out. Like, it has to be crazy. He had really good feedback about what it feels like to drive that. And I was like, what's its character? And he's like, I don't even like, he couldn't really like pinpoint it, but he's like, it's good. And so to hear that from someone who, has a lot of driving experience and professional driving experience and has, raced NASCAR and like has all of that perspective, to hear that from him was really cool, because it's like, he's the one who's behind the wheel of it, like seeing like, okay, all this stuff these engineering teams and these, people have done, like, how does it apply? Like, that's so cool. And like, also what a unique opportunity. I even got David Reagan to sign my Mach-e key. I took my Mach-e key out of my bag and I was like, can you sign my Mach-e key? And he was like, yeah, of course. I was like, I'm totally unprepared. I don't have a Sharpie. I don't have a Sharpie. He's like pulling one out of his pocket. I mean, like, just, it's so cool. And like, then of course now I have to preserve this. So I'm so grateful, because Jai, who I went with, she is like the biggest motorsport enthusiast ever. Like, I have never met someone with as much knowledge. Like, it genuinely is so impressive how much she knows. And she like really puts the time and effort into staying on top of it. And like, she shares that with everybody, like literally everyone. And it was so cool to be there, I think, with her specifically, because she would point out, oh, this guy so-and-so, and this guy did this, and like this lady, and this, and this car, and this blah, blah, and this race, and then in 2 years, and in 5 years, and 16 years ago. And it's like, she has so much knowledge and passion that like, I wouldn't have had the same experience if I hadn't gone with her. So that to me was so special. And one other thing before I forget, kind of like end of video tidbit, the drivetrain on the prototype is different than the production model. So the production model, you can get the rear wheel drive or the all wheel drive. You have the option. The drivetrain on the production model, which I have not seen this mentioned in any other article, so you're only going to get this information from me because I talked to the engineer about it. It is a selectable variable, like an adaptive all-wheel drive system, but they have control over it. They can adjust power to each wheel. Obviously, it's a cup car, so that's what they're trying to do, but that's your fun tidbit. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to me ramble and share my experience with you, and I hope that you got something from this, and I hope that you found the information helpful. Bye.